an issue, there's a provision. For example, if the courts will have to decide between withholding information or giving out information, they will always be they will always have to resolve in favor of the right to information. That is, if there's a conflict, that's one safeguard. Another safeguard is for the blocked out documents that you were saying. Whenever a document is classified as in an executive conference, for example, it's supposed to be classified. There is a period of declassification. The president will have to, or any member of the government will have to specify when it should be declassified. That's one of the that's another safeguard. And when it comes also to the right of a person to privacy, this should not be compromised. This is also part of our working draft. Unless that person enters into an agreement with the government for a public endeavor or a public contract, that's the time when the government may look into his documents, particularly business transactions. But the KBP also made sure that we should also classify certain documents of the individual as public. For example, birth certificates, NBI clearances. These things should be easily accessible without the written authorization of the individual. Because at least what we're trying to do here is not to add to the bureaucratic red tape just to be able to get basic information. But when it comes to your comment on the leaks, the faucets, I really appreciate this because actually during the campaign we've traveled to many different places in the country, and what I've noticed, there's a lot of improvement, but a lot of our restrooms actually have leaks. Almost 80% of all the restrooms in our airports, and I think that this is something simple that we need to address, the maintenance and operating expenses. We need to look at it. For example, I found out that the MOOE of our policemen for each police precinct is very small. 1,000 pesos per policeman should cover everything from the maintenance of the precinct to the electricity to the water. So it's really very hard to meet the services that we need to provide our countrymen. For our next presentation, I will ask Congressman Erin Tanyada, who was the champion of the FOI in the lower house. After you make your presentation, I'd like to know what the stumbling blocks are in the lower house.
For just
Yes,
a
ma'am.
2-minute response to the
Yes,
points
ma'am.
you have made. On declassification, there's already an SOP in regard to this. This is like 30 years, which is equivalent to one generation. And I've looked at other FOIs, and the declassification period is really one generation, 30 years. Maybe we can also adopt that. On the right to privacy, I think somewhere in your bill, there should also be a protection for intellectual property.
Oh yes, there is,
Yeah.
ma'am.
Oh, there
Intellectual
is.
property, trade secrets.